There is something unsettling about the way your life unfolds. Not the obvious things, not the surface-level events you can explain, but the patterns. The same types of people showing up, the same problems repeating, the same invisible wall you keep hitting, no matter how hard you try to move forward. At some point, you stop blaming coincidence, and you start asking a dangerous question. What if this isn't random? Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." Most people hear this quote and move on. But if you really understand what he meant, it changes everything. Because Jung wasn't speaking metaphorically. He was pointing to a psychological mechanism so powerful, it quietly shapes your entire reality without your awareness. The truth is this: you are not controlled by what you want. You are controlled by what you believe on a subconscious level, and those two things are often completely different. So, you can consciously desire success, while unconsciously believing you are not enough. You can want love, while carrying a hidden expectation of abandonment. You can try to move forward, while something inside you is programmed to stay exactly where you are. And this is where most people misunderstand the law of attraction. They think it's about wishing, visualizing, repeating affirmations, but none of that matters if your subconscious is not convinced. Because the subconscious mind does not respond to words. It responds to what feels real, to what feels true, to what has been emotionally experienced and repeated over time. Imagine planting a seed in soil. If the soil is toxic, it doesn't matter how perfect the seed is. It won't grow the way you expect. Your conscious mind is the seed. Your subconscious mind is the soil. And most people are trying to change their lives without ever touching the soil. That's why change feels temporary. You get motivated. You feel inspired. You decide that this time will be different. And for a while, it is, until something pulls you back into old habits, old emotions, old outcomes. Not because you're weak, but because your subconscious is doing exactly what it was programmed to do. Keep your reality consistent with your internal beliefs. And here's the part no one tells you. Your subconscious does not care if those beliefs are good or bad. It only cares if they are familiar. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar success. Familiar struggle feels more real than sudden change. So even when opportunities appear, even when doors open, even when things start to shift, something inside you hesitates, sabotages, delays, overthinks. Not because you don't want the life you're asking for, but because, on a deeper level, you don't yet identify with it. This is why two people can take the same actions and get completely different results. One moves forward effortlessly. The other feels like they're constantly fighting against invisible resistance. The difference is not effort, it's alignment. And alignment does not happen at the level of thoughts. It happens at the level of identity. Your subconscious mind is not asking, "What do you want?" It's asking, "Who do you believe you are?" Because everything in your life begins to organize itself around that answer. The opportunities you notice, the risks you take, the way you interpret events, the people you attract, all of it is filtered through your subconscious identity. So if deep down you believe, "I am not worthy, I always fail, things never work out for me," then no amount of positive thinking will override that, because your subconscious will quietly bend reality to prove itself right. Not as punishment, but as confirmation. And this is where the real secret begins, not in attracting what you want, but in becoming someone who naturally expects it. Because when your subconscious is convinced, you don't chase outcomes anymore. You start moving differently, thinking differently, responding differently, and without forcing anything, your external world begins to reflect that shift. But here's the problem. You cannot lie to your subconscious. You cannot trick it with surface-level motivation. You cannot convince it overnight. You have to speak its language, and its language is not logic. It is repetition, emotion, and experience. Which means if you want to change your life, you don't start by changing your goals. You start by changing the internal patterns that have been silently running your life all along. Because until you do, you are not creating your reality. You are repeating it. And once you truly understand this, you realize something both terrifying and empowering. The life you are living right now is not random. It is a reflection. In the next part, we're going deeper. into how these subconscious programs are actually formed and why some of them are so difficult to break. Because once you see where they come from, you stop blaming yourself and you finally understand what needs to change. Part 2. How your subconscious was programmed. You were not born with the beliefs that now shape your life. You learned them quietly, gradually, without even realizing it. Long before you had the ability to question reality, your subconscious was already absorbing it, not logically, but emotionally. As a child, your mind didn't filter information the way it does now. You didn't ask, "Is this true? Does this make sense?" You simply experienced, and whatever you experienced repeatedly became your truth. If love felt inconsistent, you didn't conclude, "This environment is unstable." You concluded, "Love is unpredictable." If you were criticized often, you didn't think, "These people are projecting." You internalized, "There must be something wrong with me." And these weren't just thoughts, they became emotional imprints. Because the subconscious mind does not store beliefs as sentences, it stores them as felt realities. That's why some patterns feel so difficult to change. They don't feel like beliefs, they feel like facts. And here's the part that changes everything. Your subconscious does not distinguish between past and present. So when a situation in your current life resembles something from your past, your subconscious reacts as if it's happening again. Not symbolically, literally. That's why you sometimes feel emotions that seem too intense for the moment. Why a small rejection feels overwhelming. Why uncertainty triggers deep anxiety. Why certain people instantly feel familiar, even if they're not good for you. You are not reacting to the present. You are reliving a pattern. And this is where Jung's concept of the shadow becomes crucial. The shadow is not just your dark side. It is everything you have pushed out of awareness. Everything you were taught was unacceptable. Everything you had to suppress in order to be accepted, loved, or safe. Your anger, your insecurity, your need for validation, your fear of being abandoned. These parts didn't disappear. They went underground, into the subconscious. And from there, they began to influence your life indirectly. Jung believed that what you repress does not vanish. It returns as behavior, as patterns, as fate. So if you were taught that expressing yourself leads to rejection, you might unconsciously hold yourself back. If you learned that success brings pressure or jealousy, you might sabotage opportunities. If you associated love with pain, you might be drawn to emotionally unavailable people. Not because you choose this consciously, but because your subconscious is trying to recreate what feels familiar, even if it hurts. This is why awareness alone is not enough. You can understand your patterns and still repeat them. Because insight happens in the conscious mind, but patterns live in the subconscious. And the subconscious is not changed by realization. It is changed by experience. That's why people often say, "I know what I should do, but I can't seem to do it." It's not a lack of discipline. It's a deeper conflict. A part of you wants change. Another part of you is trying to protect the identity you've always known. And until those parts are aligned, you will feel stuck between movement and resistance. Now here's something even more subtle. Your subconscious doesn't just store beliefs about yourself. It stores beliefs about how the world works. Whether opportunities are rare or abundant, whether people can be trusted, whether success is safe or dangerous. So when you try to step into a new version of your life, you're not just changing actions, you're challenging an entire internal system. And that system will resist, not because it's against you, but because its primary function is stability. Your subconscious would rather keep you in a familiar struggle than risk an unfamiliar unknown, even if that unknown is better. This is why real change feels uncomfortable, why growth feels unnatural at first, why stepping into a new identity can feel almost wrong. Because you are moving beyond what your subconscious recognizes as you. And this is also why most people give up. They interpret discomfort as a sign that something is wrong. But in reality, discomfort is often a sign that something is changing. So the question becomes, how do you convince your subconscious to accept a new reality as safe, as normal, as you? Because until that happens, you will always return to what feels familiar. In the next part, we'll break down exactly how reprogramming works, not through vague affirmations, but through the actual mechanisms that influence the subconscious mind: repetition, emotion, identity shifts, and the subtle behaviors that signal change. Because once you understand how to speak to your subconscious, you stop fighting yourself and you start transforming from within. Part 3. How to reprogram your subconscious. At this point, you understand something most people never fully grasp. Your life is not shaped by effort alone. It is shaped by the patterns running beneath your awareness. So the question is no longer, what do I want? It becomes, how do I become someone who naturally lives that reality? And this is where most people fail. They try to force change from the surface. Affirmations they don't believe, motivation that fades, temporary discipline. But the subconscious cannot be forced. It must be conditioned. Think of it this way. Your subconscious is not a thinker. It is a pattern recognition system. It learns through 3 main channels: repetition, emotional intensity, identity reinforcement. If something happens once, it barely registers. If it happens repeatedly, it becomes familiar. If it happens with strong emotion, it becomes significant. If it becomes part of your identity, it becomes permanent. So reprogramming your subconscious is not about one big moment. It's about consistent signals over time. 1. Repetition, the quiet rewiring. Every thought you repeat strengthens a pathway, not because it's true, but because it's familiar. This is why your current beliefs feel so real. You've rehearsed them thousands of times. I'm not ready. I always mess things up. This won't work. These aren't conclusions. They are rehearsals. So the goal is not to suddenly believe the opposite. That rarely works. The goal is to introduce new thoughts that feel possible. Not perfect, not extreme, just believable. Instead of, I am completely confident and successful. You begin with, I'm starting to handle things better than before. It sounds small, but to the subconscious, it's acceptable. And what is acceptable can be repeated. And what is repeated becomes natural. 2. Emotion, the amplifier of change. Repetition alone is not enough. Emotion is what tells the subconscious, this matters. That's why negative experiences shape us so deeply. They are emotionally intense. So if you want to reprogram your mind, you don't just think differently. You have to feel something new. This is where visualization becomes powerful when done correctly. Not as fantasy, but as emotional rehearsal. You don't imagine a perfect life. You imagine specific moments, walking into a room with calm confidence, handling a situation differently than before, responding instead of reacting. And you don't just see it, you feel it, the calm, the certainty, the grounded presence. Because the subconscious does not know the difference between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. What it recognizes is emotion plus repetition, reality. 3. Identity, the core shift. This is the most important part, because behavior follows identity. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you will find ways to struggle. If you see yourself as someone who figures things out, you will begin to act differently, even without trying. So instead of asking, what should I do? You begin asking, who is the version of me that already lives this? And then you start acting like that person in small, subtle ways. Not dramatically, not perfectly, but consistently. You speak a little differently. You tolerate less of what drains you. You follow through, just a bit more than before. These small actions send a powerful signal. This is who I am now. And the subconscious listens. Because identity is not built through declarations. It is built through evidence. Every time you act in alignment with your new identity, you are collecting proof. And slowly, the old identity begins to weaken. 4. The hidden mechanism, your environment. Here's something most people overlook. Your environment is constantly reinforcing your subconscious. The content you consume, the people you interact with, the conversations you have. If everything around you reflects your old identity, change becomes difficult. Not impossible, but slower. Because your subconscious is receiving mixed signals. So part of reprogramming is not just internal, it's external. You begin to choose environments that reflect who you are becoming, not who you were. And over time, this creates alignment, where your thoughts, actions, and environment all begin pointing in the same direction. And when that happens, change no longer feels forced. It feels natural. But there is still one final obstacle. The reason most people, even after understanding all of this, still don't fully change. And it's not lack of knowledge. It's not lack of effort. It's something much deeper. In the final part, we're going to uncover it. Part 4, the final barrier. The moment you either change or return to your old self. There is a moment in every person's life that doesn't look important at first. No dramatic event, no clear turning point, just a quiet, almost invisible tension inside you. You sit with your thoughts, and something feels different. You see your patterns more clearly than before. The way you hesitate, the way you hold yourself back, the way you return to what feels familiar, even when it no longer serves you. And for the first time, you can't pretend you don't see it. This is the moment most people misunderstand, because from the outside, nothing has changed, but internally, everything has started to shift. And with that shift comes something unexpected: resistance. Not loud, not obvious, but persistent, subtle, intelligent. You tell yourself you'll start tomorrow. You overanalyze simple decisions. You feel tired for no clear reason. You distract yourself, just enough to avoid moving forward. And if you're not aware, you will label this as laziness, a lack of discipline, a personal flaw. But what you're actually experiencing is something far more profound. You are standing at the edge of your current identity. Because here's the truth most people never realize. Your life is not held in place by circumstances. It is held in place by identity. And your identity is designed to stay consistent. Your subconscious has spent years building a version of you, a version that knows how to survive, a version that understands what to expect, a version that feels familiar. Even if that version is limited, even if that version is stuck, even if that version is in pain, it is still known, and the subconscious prefers what is known over what is unknown. So when you begin to change, you are not just improving your life, you are threatening your identity. And to your subconscious, that feels like a loss. Not logically, but emotionally. Because if you become someone new, then who were you all this time? This is where the real internal conflict begins. A part of you is pulling forward, growth, expansion, possibility. Another part of you is pulling backward, safety, familiarity, certainty. And you feel it as hesitation, as doubt, as a strange, unexplainable heaviness. This is not weakness, this is identity friction. And it is the final barrier. Most people reach this point and turn back. Not consciously, but through small decisions. They delay, they settle. They return to old environments, old behaviors, old versions of themselves. Not because they want to, but because it feels easier. Because staying the same requires no identity shift. But here's what separates the few who truly change from everyone else. They don't wait for the discomfort to disappear. They move with it. They understand something crucial. Discomfort is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're leaving who you used to be. So instead of asking, "Why does this feel so hard?" they ask, "What version of me is trying to survive right now?" And when you ask that question honestly, you begin to see it. The voice that tells you to wait, the urge to go back, the fear of being seen differently, the quiet pull toward your old habits. And instead of fighting it, you observe it. Because the moment you observe a pattern, you step outside of it. You are no longer the identity, you are the awareness behind it. And in that space, something powerful happens. You gain choice. Not a dramatic, life-changing choice, but a small one, subtle, almost insignificant. Do I act like the person I used to be, or the person I am becoming? And in that moment, your future is decided. Not once, but again and again. Because identity is not changed in one decision. It is changed in hundreds of small confirmations. Every time you follow through, even when you don't feel like it. Every time you speak differently, even when it feels unnatural. Every time you hold your ground, even when your old self would have retreated. You are sending a signal, not to the world, but to yourself. This is who I am now. And your subconscious listens, slowly at first, then more clearly, until one day, something shifts. The resistance fades, the hesitation softens. The things that once felt difficult feel normal. You no longer force yourself to act differently. You don't need motivation. You don't rely on willpower. Because you are no longer trying to change. You already have. And this is the moment everything becomes effortless. Not because life is suddenly perfect, but because you are no longer in conflict with yourself. Your thoughts, your actions, your identity are aligned. And when that alignment becomes real, your external world begins to reflect it. Opportunities feel natural, decisions feel clear, movement feels fluid. Not because something magical happened, but because for the first time, you are not repeating your past. You are creating from a new identity. And that is the real shift. Not when you get what you want, but when you become someone who no longer doubts they can have it. That is when everything changes. Not suddenly, but inevitably. Because once your subconscious is convinced, there is no going back. And the life you once chased becomes the life you naturally live.